Jim McBride covers the Bruins for the Boston Globe. He's always been very kind in joining us. He joins us on the Volkswagen Dealers Expert Hotline. Mr. McBride, hello, sir.
Good morning, Fred. If I could slip back into football for 1 second,
Yeah.
your last segment brought back a memory of Dan Campbell and probably his best moment as the Dolphins coach when they upset the Patriots in the
Recording stopped.
Hey.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
they upset the Patriots in the finale of the 2015 season, which cost the Patriots the number one seed, and they ended up losing to Denver in the AFC Championship game. And I remember seeing Dan Campbell in the tunnel after that game, and he was as pumped up as any human I've ever seen. I thought he was going to kill everyone he saw.
All right, well, you covered the football and the Patriots for a very long time. I mean, what do you make of Vegas having Mayo being, with not even like super long odds, being the second to the next coach fired?
I can't believe that because there's no way Robert Kraft is firing Gerard Mayo after one season. I mean, unless the wheels completely come off the last half of the season, you've got to give the guy more rope than 8 games.
Right. I mean, the team is not built to win. I mean, and as long as May, they don't destroy May, or it would really take Mayo doing something wrong, like wrong, like unequivocally wrong, like a moral violation, a legal violation. Like, I don't know really what he could do. Even if they lose out, I don't know how you could fire him, because you knew they weren't going to win probably 5 games this year, And so yeah. I don't know why you would fire him, because the expectations were so low.
Unless it's gross game mismanagement over the last, say, 5 or so games, and there's a pattern there, then maybe you could make a case, but I still don't think so.
Yeah, you got to give the guy a chance to build the culture. And do you think Mayo, I mean, we talked about how Dan Campbell certainly built that culture in Detroit, because there's a lot of teams that draft well, and not all of them win at the clip Detroit's winning. They just went to Green Bay. And the reason I keep mentioning it is they just went to Green Bay and won in the weather, which was the big knock on Goff and that team, is that would they be able to do that? They're an indoor team, and they showed that they could. Do you think that Mayo has the ability to build that kind of culture? Because he's certainly not like a guru. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do, because he's kind of a player's coach, and he did learn under Bill, so he's still taking some of that, but putting his own stamp on it. So I think he's a leader. He was always a leader in that clubhouse, and I think that he's a guy that can, take a kind of a mosaic of everything he's learned from the Belichick era, the business era, being an assistant coach. I think that, he's a player's guy. I think he'll build that culture. And if they draft better than they have in the last, 5 or 6 years, he has a chance to turn that around for sure.
Okay, so let's bring this back to the Bruins. Jim Montgomery is, he doesn't have a contract past this year. He was hard on Marchand at the end of a game a few games ago, and visibly calling him out. Then they've won 2 in a row. The last game they benched Pasternak. He benched Pasternak for the third period. Why did he bench Pasternak, and what are your feelings on taking that kind of action?
Yeah, I was very surprised. I mean, it goes back to a bad turnover by Pasta at the end of the second period when he gave I think it was Yanni Gorda a pretty good chance to score. And I was surprised because I didn't think Pasta had been playing that bad, to be honest with you. He had 7 shots on net over the first 40 minutes. Now, they weren't, grade A chances, but he was still creating. But obviously, he had admitted himself last week in Nashville to me that he wasn't happy with how he was playing. And I think this was kind of an extension of that, and maybe the wake-up call he needed. Now, you bench your best player, sometimes that can backfire. Remember, back in, I think it was 96 when Steve Casper benched Cam Neely and Kevin Stevens, and that certainly didn't work out well. But that was a different situation because Casper dressed those guys and basically sat them for the entire game. It wasn't an in-game decision. So I like the way Pasta reacted yesterday to it, took ownership of it. So maybe this lingers a little longer, but maybe he comes out and scores a hat trick tonight against the Maple Leafs, and this is just a kind of a forgotten side note to the season.
That was one of the pieces of commentary I saw about it, Jim, that I think spoke a lot about the way not only Pasternak handled it, but maybe the way Montgomery is still being received in the room, is that when he was on the bench, he wasn't quiet, he wasn't sulking, he was still engaged, he was still chirping, he was still keeping the chatter up. And I think Coyle was asked about it afterward. He said, "Yeah, it was fine. Like it was something that happened like any other in-game adjustment or coach's decision that didn't seem to be taken to heart by Pasternak." And it leads me to think, all right, for all the conversation about Montgomery, I don't think he's in danger of losing the room, at least by that one small symbol of Pasternak taking it pretty well.
Yeah, I think that says a lot about Pastor and that he stayed engaged, because he's got the A on his sweater, and I think he takes that very seriously. And if he kind of moped on the bench, it might have been a different feeling, but it was just another indication that the leadership on this team truly are leaders. Because if it went the other way, then that would have been bad. The locker room could have been lost. But I think Pasta did a great job in showing that it's more about the B than it is about him. So I think they can build on that.
Jim, they just posted back-to-back shutouts over the weekend, but I realize you, as a cynical, hardened, battle-tested writer, are not sold that this team has turned the corner. What is it going to take for you to feel that way?
Yeah, I think a continuation of what they did over the weekend. I mean, I thought the defense played really well. They got great efforts from Swayman and Korpisalo. I thought it was big for Korpisalo to have that shutout because I think a lot of people looked at him as like, all right, well, we have a game to give away. Let's put Unis in net, and he came up big in that game, and it was on the heels of the 8-2 loss in Carolina, which was frankly embarrassing. So that was big. And I think that they just need to keep going hard to the net. I sound like a coach when I say that, but when they do that, they have a lot of success, and they get chances. And in Carolina, they were not going to the net, and they did the last two games. And they only scored 4 goals total, but they had a lot more chances than they've had in probably the previous handful of games. So going hard to the net, being in front of the net is such a big thing, and it's such a cliche, but it's so true.
All right. So, what do you think about this team? We've talked to about with Montgomery, and he seems to be like focused on the playoffs. Do you think this team, as constructed, is built for the playoffs?
Yeah, I still think there's a lot of good pieces. They still have a lot, a very good first line, a very good fourth line. They've got great defense, and they've got Jeremy Swayman, so that gives you a chance. They've got to find some secondary scoring from that second and third line, and whether Tyler Johnson comes in and provides that boost. I know a lot of people have been looking to him. I'm not sure. I'm not even sure where he fits in the lineup right now. Maybe he takes Morgan Geeky's spot for a little bit. Maybe he takes Matt Poitras's spot for a little bit, but I think that there's too much talent on this team to count them out. And if recent results show that they're heading in the right direction, and they've got the Maple Leafs tonight, which has always been a cure for what ails the Bruins.
All right. Well, listen, Jim McBride, we always appreciate the time. The Bruins are an interesting story early this season. We appreciate it. Thank you so much, sir. If you like that clip, check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. For more Bruins analysis and opinion, hit this playlist.